Look, even the president's own plan says that it's not time to reopen the economy and the state yet. There are other protests ongoing today. Austin, Texas, probably one of the more notable ones going on throughout the day. There were also reported protests in Carson City, Nevada, and Brookfield, Wisconsin. There have been protests throughout this past week where you really started to see some more of the significant protesting, as well as some discussion of protests in North Carolina and other places around the country. Back here in Maryland, the governor has closed the schools until May 15th. He says his team has been working on a plan to gradually reopen the state here in Maryland, and that he hopes to divulge some more details about that next week. Eric?
Yeah, Rich, and the governor, as you point out, a Republican saying you need to show 14 days of declining numbers. They haven't had that yet. And he points out that Washington has doubled next door, so it's not over until it's over, and he's saying go slow. Rich, thanks.
That's right. Thanks.
Yeah, Eric, well, there is some good news. The Trump administration planning to spend $19 billion on a relief program for the struggling farm industry. Here's how that money is going to be distributed. $16 billion will be direct payments to farmers, ranchers, and producers who lost money due to the pandemic. The USDA will use the rest of the money to purchase fresh produce, dairy, and meat products for distribution to food banks and faith-based organizations.
Having to dump milk or plow under vegetables ready to market is not only financially distressing, but it's heartbreaking as well to those who produce them. This program will not only provide direct financial relief to our farmers and ranchers, Mr. President, but will allow for the purchase and distribution of our agricultural abundance in this country to help our fellow Americans in need.
The USDA will also use distributors like Sysco to package bulk products, easing the workloads for food banks short on volunteers amid the coronavirus outbreak. Eric. And I'll keep it here. The lack of volunteers, meanwhile, one reason for long lines at food banks across the country as the groups practice social distancing. The food distributors are also feeling the pinch from a lack of donations and panic buying at grocery stores. Rob DiRienzo has more.
Food banks nationwide are scrambling after all the panic buying over the past few weeks left grocery store shelves bare.
It goes all the way down to the manufacturer, down to the farmer, down to the vendor. Like it's so much bigger than we are.
From Philly to Atlanta.
It's really depleted those donations significantly.
All the way to Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Sauce, beans.
The challenges are looking the same. Massive lines of hungry people like this one in San Antonio, Texas, combined with the loss of volunteers and a supply chain that doesn't have enough food to keep up.
We have a surge in demand unlike anything we've seen in the history of food banking.
Katie Fitzgerald is the VP of Feeding America, a network of 200 food banks across the country. They project a staggering 17.1 million people in the U.S. could face hunger as a result of the coronavirus.
It's in the center of the country. It's on the coast. It's everywhere where people have lost their livelihood overnight.
The National Guard now stepping in Atlanta to fill the volunteer void. As supermarket shelves slowly come back to life, food banks are actually discouraging the donation of food, at least for now. They say the best way to help is a monetary donation that they'll use to buy directly from suppliers in bulk.
We can turn the dollar you spend on a can of food into about 9 cans of food and really make it go farther. Right now, that's even more important. It just allows us to control the inventory much more closely.
You wouldn't want them to go out to try and buy food for us. You want them to stay safe and not have to go search for on empty shelves at the grocery stores right now.
One way you can find your local food bank is through feedingamerica.org, whether it's to donate or find some help yourself in this difficult time. In Boston, Rob DiRienzo, Fox News.
We know the problems cruise ships have had. Well, French authorities have blocked an Italian cruise ship from disembarking more than 1,000 of its passengers, this in Marseille. Officials cite a nationwide ban on allowing foreign cruise ships to dock as part of measures that are put into place to try and stop the spread of coronavirus there. Amy Kellogg is live in Florence, Italy, with the very latest on what's happening on the continent. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Eric. Well, that ship set out on January 5th to sail the world, and anxiously, the people on board are waiting to disembark. They set off from Venice, and that is where their voyage will end. But in the meantime, these 2,000 passengers aboard the Costa Deliciosa, as it's called, have not actually set their feet on firm ground since March 15th. The French passengers were hoping to get off in Marseille, but that is not to be. Speaking of France, it hopes to get back up and running at least partially on May 11th, with the president saying he is concerned about kids getting back to school because the lockdown is causing aggravating inequality for poorer kids who are cooped up in small abodes. Meanwhile, Spain's coronavirus death toll topped 20,000 today. Spain has the third highest death toll in the world after the US and Italy. And here in Sicily, the economic impact of the coronavirus crisis can be seen with increasing pressure on charities that hand out food. This as the coronavirus czar in Italy is warning that without making health the absolute priority here, as Italy slowly reopens May 4th, economic revival will disappear with the, quote, batting of an eyelash. The northern economic powerhouse region of the country has had a death toll from coronavirus 3 times that of China's. And speaking of China, which was quick and very public to dispense aid when the crisis hit here in Italy, causing people to talk about propaganda value, one recent study found 36% of Italians would choose China as the country outside Europe they would most hope to develop international relations with. Only 30% would choose the United States. And finally, across parts of Europe and the world, tomorrow is Orthodox Easter. And for the most part, Easter services are off, but the Holy Fire arrived in Greece today, said by the faithful to have been lit miraculously earlier in the day at Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus was said to have been laid out after crucifixion. Normally, Eric, that flame would then be distributed to churches across Greece, but instead, given the situation, there was a small ceremony upon its arrival, and normally, in normal times, at midnight, the holy flame across Greece is brought out for a procession to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. Eric.
All right, Amy, thanks so much. So very special. Well, just ahead here on the Fox News channel, just how long do you think it'll be before we get back to normal or partially normal? How long will we need to wear masks, continue social distancing? We will take a look. Plus, we'll also zero in on a drug that they say is showing promising signs for people who are hospitalized with the symptoms of the virus. Our coverage of coronavirus continues right after this.